But what's another thing now, ladies and gentlemen? As I mentioned, here's that story from Patrick Christie's where in a Welsh school in Swansea, in, what was it? It's a Seaview Community Primary School, as I mentioned. A representative from a local mosque went in and told these children, by year 6, you'll all be Muslim. If you're a parent in the UK, and odds are your child will be in public schools, that's pretty much the only option a lot of people have. Make no mistake, this is by design. And this is a threat. This is a threat to you, a threat to your children, and I'll explain to you why in a moment.
GB News can exclusively reveal that a Welsh primary school has been slammed after worried parents were branded racist for raising concerns about an Islam lesson. Let me explain. Seaview Primary School in Swansea recently brought in a representative from a local mosque to teach the school children about Islam. But parents complained that Christian denominations don't get the same representation in their religious education lessons. Apparently, parents were not informed about the visits beforehand, and then when some objected to the lessons, they were apparently made to feel as though they were racist. Children were being marked down on things like misspelling mosque or Quran. But there is a bit more to this. There is even the claim that one of the children said, I'm Christian, I don't pray to Allah, and that the person who came in to that school to give that talk and to be with the children said that by the time you hit year 6, you will all be Muslim. Well, local Reform UK councillor Francesca O'Brien.
Right, you can go and check out the rest of that clip link down below. You can go check out the full GB News segment if you want. That is a threat. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen. That is a threat. That is saying convert or die. Convert or die, or convert or be enslaved. The same way, ladies and gentlemen, I think you might be able to, if I dodge out the way, there you go. If I move my chair out the way slightly, to this way. Right there, if you're looking on screen, right there. That book, right there, which I'm pointing to. It's called The Last Girl. It's called The Last Girl. It's written by Nadia Murad, a survivor of the Yazidi genocide. Now, she was taken as a sex slave by ISIS, right? She has a really, really tragic, harrowing story, which broke down as part of a members-only video in full. Now, you can get some extracts of it on YouTube if you're just a regular viewer and on Rumble, etc. You can get more clips and more things, extracts from it on early access if you go over to Locals Patreon and the Tier 2 membership. Tier 3 of the YouTube is where the full video is. If you go over, because they're the same price, right? Because they're the same price on Locals and on Patreon. If you're going over there, the full video will be located in there for you as well. Now, there's going to be more extracts of that coming out over time, right? Coming out over the rest of the course of this month, going into the end of the year, right? But do go check it out if you haven't done so already. It's a harrowing story, but there's a lot of things in there. We don't just read you the book, ladies and gentlemen. I don't just read you the book. There's many themes in there which we discuss as well. 4 key ones in particular, and there's another one which I wanted to write about as well, but I've forgotten about it. I've forgotten what it was. Which I will. Oh yes, I've just remembered what it is. In fact, I'm going to make a little voice note in a moment, ladies and gentlemen, off the record, so that I can remember what it is. Okay. Sorry, my mic massively clipped over the limit there for a moment. Yes, so stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for that coming up in the near future. So, just shared there's a veiled threat, because what is it, ladies and gentlemen, about Islam that makes it so dangerous? Right, well, let me read you this. Some people are really shocked to find this out when I share this with them, and I've not read the Quran from cover to cover. I don't intend to, because I actually value my life. And I don't want to do penance, right, unnecessarily, particularly with reading that. But there is an important, that's why I appreciate people that have read it and do talk about it a lot. For example, I believe Raymond Ibrahim he speaks on it a lot. Robert Spencer, David Wood, Ridvan, I think it's Ridvan, I don't know how to say it, but the apostate prophet, right? Obviously, he's a ex-Muslim himself. What happens first, and this is what they were confronted with, the Yazidis were confronted with, when ISIS took over their village of Kocho, they said to them, you have 3 days to convert to Islam or suffer the consequences, and they insinuated they probably first have to pay jizya, and then what happened was they were taken to the local school in Kocho, the men were slaughtered and dumped into a mass grave, and the women were taken to Mosul and other places to be sold on the slave markets, right? For the use as, sexual slave housewives, if you will. That's basically what they were used for. Where does this come from? So, for example, all you got to do is go on to Quran.com, Quran.com, and you can get this. You can read this, the verses 928 to 929, and it actually breaks it down for you. Now, this is one thing here: the order to fight people of the scriptures until they give jizya. Jizya being a quote-unquote protection tax, but people don't realize it's more and more of a cuck tax. Right? It's you acknowledging that you are, in fact, a second-class citizen, basically, or second-class person, a dhimmi, right? This is why Allah compensated Muslims for their losses by the amount of jizya that they took from the people of Dhimma, right? The lower class, if you will. So have a look on screen here, ladies and gentlemen, where it says the order to fight people of the scriptures. That means Christians and possibly Jews. They sometimes refer to them as different names, but people of the scriptures tends to refer to Christians until they give jizya. Fight those who do not believe in Allah, nor in the last day, nor forbid that which has been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, and those who acknowledge not the religion of truth among the people of scripture until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. That's the key point there, ladies and gentlemen. Willing submission and feel themselves subdued. That's what you're seeing. This is not just a regular, just tax or whatever, or some nice payment. Oh, thank you for your protection. No, this be like, we will do whatever we want to you. Pay us so we don't, right? We'll come in, we'll rape your daughters, we'll rape your wife and all the rest of it. We'll kill you. Pay us so we don't, right? That's what it is. Because if you go down a little bit further, ladies and gentlemen, paying jizya is a sign of kufr and disgrace. It literally says it. If they choose not to embrace Islam, with willing submission in defeat and subservience. Subservience, ladies and gentlemen. This is our land, and this is what these people want to bring to us. And make no mistake, they don't even lie about it. Disgraced, humiliated, and belittled. Do you want to be disgraced, humiliated, and belittled and subservient to these disgusting foreigners in the name of a foreign religion in your own home, ladies and gentlemen, in your own homeland? I would think not. I would think not. If you don't want that, congratulations. You're on the same side as somebody who's been branded as far-right, fascist, the Antichrist, and all manner of different other things, right? Well done. You've joined the club. You might not agree with me on everything, but you should at least understand the threat that this poses. And make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, the sectarian groups have been building in the UK for a long time now. The reason why, on the NHS, we have wards. We have wards to deal with the consequences of things like cousin marriage and inbreeding. Right? And female genital mutilation. Not only that, they openly say they want to come here and take power. Right? They openly say it. Because Humza Yousaf, right, or Humza Useless, as some other people call him, the ex-First Minister of Scotland, right, the one who's a flagrant anti-white racist and anti-British, right, disgusting colonising foreigner, who I can't wait to see remigrated back home, has founded, or at least been a co-founder, of something called the Muslim Impact Forum. And they say openly they want Muslims at every level, or at the very top level of the British government, and every level of society. Obviously, they want to be head teachers in schools. They want all the schools to be Islamic, which is why that education secretary, what's his name, Hamid Patel, I believe his name is, would never, ever, ever should be happening. You wonder why you have people going in from the local mosques to our schools and telling our children, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be converting to Islam by the time you're in year 6." And then you look at the education sec, and it's like, or one of the leaders of education in the UK, and it's like, I wonder why. I wonder why. You look at the Home Secretary, right? You look at the Deputy Prime Minister, ever since Angie Rayner's gone, right? Probably to buy another home. You look at the Home Office, and you see that there's nearly a British person in there. You think, maybe that's why Britain has so many problems. That's how the rest of the world sees it, make no mistake. The rest of the world sees everything we're doing now as just absolutely deliberately cucking ourselves for no good fucking reason, right? And they think it's humiliating. J.D. Vance making the jibe that Britain is going to be the first Islamic country that's nuclear armed, right? Even though Pakistan already has nuclear weapons. But anyway, you see the sentiment. You see people sharing memes, that the iconic one of Putin raising the glass, and it says, as they say in England, Allahu Akbar, or as they say in England, and then it's just some Arabic text. Because we have road signs that are written in Arabic and Urdu and all the rest of it in many areas of England now. This is colonization. And I appreciate you guys. I know I'm preaching to the converted a lot, or preaching to the choir even. But I appreciate you guys who share this, and I hope you'll share this because this is a target on your back, and your politicians are exploiting you and sacrificing you and your children and every future generation that's going to come on this altar. And even the older generation that somehow still don't see it, right? Even though they're the ones that have had certain benefits, pensions, etc., taken away from them. One of the things we talked about with Justine was how the government's even pushing through this euthanasia legislation like there's no tomorrow, right? At a time when it comes to having to pay people their pensions for all their lives, right? For all their lives' work. Funny how that works. Government take from you all across your fucking life. When it comes time to pay you back, would you rather just die? Funny how that works, isn't it? But we're all going to die soon enough, unless we take this threat seriously, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Hamza Yusuf and whoever the other guy is. I don't care about who he is. I don't care to learn his name or anything like that. Literally saying that we need Muslims and we need everything to be made in Britain for the betterment of Muslims, right? Which would directly make it worse for every other religious minority, many just non-religious people included in that, mind you. They don't care whether you're religious or you're not, ladies and gentlemen. They just care whether you're Muslim or not. That's all they care about, right? This is what they have to say and how they're saying we need more people like Hamza Yusuf and we need more people, Muslims, in top areas of government.
I would say hand on heart now that we are at a tipping point in this country, and it's reflected in other countries as well, where we either try and do something different to try and self-organize Muslims, to represent ourselves better, to use our resources better, and to influence the countries that we live in better than we have done already. Brother Hamza is a relatively rare and unique political talent. Actually, we need many more people like him at the top of government, in every government, in this country, across the 4 nations, and in other governments, that can influence, sit at the top table and make a difference on behalf of the Muslims. I would say hand on heart.
Now you can see the clip got cut off there. The clip got cut off there, but the sentiment was there, make it better for the Muslims. That's what you're seeing there, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just limited to one nation. They're saying all 4 nations, and they say it specifically. They say it specifically, ladies and gentlemen. So they're talking about what we can only assume. And again, not for political purposes, but just for the purposes of it being one big landmass, right? Even though there's obviously a lot of conflict that goes on when you start to say between Ireland and Northern Ireland and how it relates to Great Britain in terms of the monarchy and the troubles, etc. But they're seeing it seemingly, don't care for our native troubles, right? Don't care for our conflicts that we've had between people of these isles, right? That don't want to be part of certain political institutions and monarchies, etc. Right? And there's a lot of history between us as peoples that go back that far, right? They don't care about that. They see it as Wales, England, Scotland, and Ireland, the island landmass. They don't care about there's a distinction between Ireland and Northern Ireland there, by seemingly. And here they go. We can try something different. Quite clearly, the terror attacks haven't been working, so now they've had to exploit the political system, and it's been largely successful with overwhelming amounts of politicians bending over backwards for these people, bending over backwards, usually foreigners bending over backwards for more foreigners in the interest of foreign interests and foreign people. And the people are sick and tired of it. That's why you see people rising up. That's why you see people now being branded as far right, Islamophobic, racist, all of these things, because it's all these people have left. Because they see what is right in front of them. They see what is right in front of them. When they say self-organise, ladies and gentlemen, now, think Muslim Defence League. Think those guys that went out with weapons and the guys that you see that are going to hunt down, quote-unquote, members of the EDL with AK-47s on our soil, right? So, you might disagree with those people's politics. They're British people like you and me, right? And obviously there's a specific set of people I'm speaking to there. Understand that, there's people watch this content, even as far as New Zealand, people have commented on my content, which I greatly appreciate. Thank you. I understand you guys are going through similar troubles, right? Same thing's going on in Australia at the moment. America, obviously, all across Europe, we're all, as native peoples of these isles and of other native countries, in this fight together. It's not just Muslims, it's against their own politicians that want to bend over backwards. But think of these rampaging marauders dressed in black, balaclavas with weapons, going through, terrorising communities in the wake after the Southport incident, the Southport terror attack, right? The Southport riots that occurred and people went to prison for and all the rest of it. By the way, alarming audio came out recently. In fact, I will try and find it whilst I'm here, ladies and gentlemen. Extremely alarming audio came out recently that outright confirms not sure where it is from, but outright confirms that these people that went to jail in the aftermath of the Southport riots, they were arrested and deliberately put on blocks with Muslims to basically be sacrificed. It makes you think, did Peter Lynch actually kill himself? I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe there's been a full autopsy done that I haven't seen. Information on X is widely shared, and people say all kinds of different things. Right? The media. We can't trust the media to report things accurately for the most part anymore. Right? Which is quite funny. Speaking of the media, I was going to bring this up a little bit later. The inquiries revealed that Axel Rudikabana brought a knife to school on 10 occasions, requested images of severed heads, and described the 2017 Manchester Arena attack as a good battle. And Adnan Hussein, who I have to bring up later as a point of credit to him, had the goal then to come out. When that bogus BBC article came out and said that he wasn't a quote-unquote Islamist or whatever, can we get an apology? I then quoted him and said, no fucking apology, and here's why. And I was completely fucking right, it seems. You want me to believe, as in the BBC and Adnan and all the rest of them, that Axel Rudikabana wasn't an Islamic terrorist when he had all of the material there. He had the BBC article still admitted he had the Al-Qaeda terrorist training manual, or the book that was deemed as affectionately termed, euphemistically, I probably should say, as the Al-Qaeda training manual. He had right signing up to kill the entire fucking community. Went in with a particular goal to kill a certain subset of people, right? These young girls that were at Taylor Swift dance class, right? And he described the 2017 Manchester Arena attack as a good battle. You want me to believe that an Islamic, that someone who's not an Islamic terrorist would describe, someone who's an anti-Islamist, you said, would describe the 2017 Manchester Arena attack as a good battle. Go absolutely fuck yourself. Go absolutely fuck yourself. I can't wait for Remigration Airlines to take him back as well. And all of their families. Obviously, I can't wait for Remigration Airlines to liberate entire communities. But here's the audio that came out, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it might be somebody that worked in the prisons or whatever. Peter Lynch's inquest is this month, so I will see what happens because of that. This is the audio that came out. It was recently posted on X, saying that they were put away for the riots. These people that were put away for the riots and deliberately put in a place where they could be targeted. I believe one of them was targeted by a shower head. Somebody ripped a shower head off and targeted somebody in the shower, and a cellmate was targeted in his cell as well, I believe. This is what will happen, ladies and gentlemen. You're an enemy of the state. They will do anything to try and terrorize you. This is a terror campaign. It's a terror government. And Plaid Cymru want to make it so much fucking worse.
Both got put away for the riots. Both been put in the same prison. Both been put in the same cell. In the last 48 hours, the wing that they put them on was 90% Muslim. Both of them, one's been attacked in the shower. They took the shower heads off, battered him. When he managed to get back to his cell, his other mate had been completely battered as well. The family's obviously distraught and everything. They're making targets of them, as well as like examples of them. They're making targets of the lads. They did some.
Now, this is a scary thing, right? Not just the actual incident itself, but obviously this is just audio. And the person who posted this, you'll find it down below, ladies and gentlemen, the X post in particular. People have seemed to try and corroborate this, right? But not saying anywhere where it is from, right? Where the actual audio is from. And this brings up another thing. With AI and with all of these advancements in technology and stuff like that, it's going to be very hard to discern what's fake and what's not at this point. If they hadn't brought up the families and stuff like that, and you can go get testimony from the families that, yes, this is what happened, you can corroborate this. I haven't seen anybody do that as of yet. But this is terrifying as well. When you see things come out and it's just an audio, it's just a waveform on a screen. AI, Matt Walsh mentioned it recently, is that AI can fake things now and create things so well that it's going to be impossible to determine fiction from reality in the near future. I know that's going to be very, very scary indeed, because we've seen how it'll be used to fabricate stories against people. It'll be used to fabricate stories against the left's political opponents. They'll use it to fabricate stories against political opponents. Odds are people on the right will as well. So people on the very fringes of the right will as well. You know, it's going to be very, very difficult to discern what is true. One of the things I do believe we have good reason to believe, however, is not just that these people were sacrificed in prison, is that, as I mentioned, no borders where there is suffering. Well, there's going to be a lot of suffering if this was allowed to come to the UK, ladies and gentlemen, as French police discover a hidden cache of firearms in a migrant camp near Calais, with fears it could bring increased violence to the UK. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, if you think that these people coming across now are anything more than a foreign political enforcement arm, an imported political enforcement arm that's going to be used by the state, if you don't think these are the UN's peacekeeper troops, right, that are going to be armed to keep native populations in check, right, like something out of the fucking Hunger Games, right? If you don't think that's the case, I don't know what to tell you at this point. Here's Patrick Christie reporting.
We start this hour with some breaking news. I can reveal that French police have just discovered a huge cache of weapons in a migrant camp near Calais. It's this camp. You might recognise it. You are a human trafficker, aren't you?
Are there?
Yes. Why are you bringing people illegally to Britain?
Go.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain? Do you feel any kind of conscience about that at all? Do you feel bad about that at all? Or not? No.
I'm just going to mute him a minute whilst I say something. Why do people think that we are going to be enriched by these people? Why do we think that they have anything to add to our communities when they were perfectly fine as it was?
Anyway, police found more than a dozen firearms today, and what they are also describing as, and I'm quoting French police here, weapons of war. So it turns out that people had buried guns there. The cops got a tip-off, and 250 French police officers went in today and got them. But I know what you're all thinking. Surely the French have now cleared this camp. Nope. Have they put a fence around it to stop anyone coming or going? No. But don't worry, because if any of these militants decide to come to Britain, this Labour government will sort them out. This week, the government celebrated sending a handful of illegal migrants back to France.
It's about 19, by the way. At least as far as I know. It was about 19 people. So you said there about a dozen weapons and what's been termed weapons of war. So what are they going to be? What are we talking? Not just like AK-47s and M16s, whatever else, or M4s, all these other things. What are we talking? Freaking RPGs? Grenades? Mortars? What fucking things are we talking? Artillery guns? Nuclear bombs? Probably not, obviously. I'm being hyperbolic. But again, this thing, thank God the fucking French authorities seized them. But again, I think, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a big fucking wall, if you have a big fucking wall between all of the nations of Europe, maybe not a literal one, but strong border controls between all of the fucking nations, maybe you wouldn't have stockpiles of weapons right on our fucking border, ready to come to the UK. I think back, you see a lot of the people in the hotels, they openly shared on their social media networks that when they're out in Pakistan and all these other Middle Eastern countries or whatever, or Asian countries, whatever term you want to use, that they were holding guns and seemingly pledging some kind of, not necessarily allegiance, but in what we can only term as like some kind of, show of strength, if you will. Further to this story, ladies and gentlemen, or rather, this came before the news that the weapons were found. There's suspected UK-trained Afghan Special Forces operatives now working as people smugglers. So hang on. We have thousands of migrants coming in every month. 1,000 came in a single day a few days ago. We have weapons being found in Calais, in these camps, weapons of war, and then you find out that potentially Afghan Special Forces operatives are aiding in these people smuggling, human trafficking operations. Is it not clear yet? That's what, again, I'm not having a go at you, the viewer who already understands what's going on. But again, to a lot of people, I don't understand how you can just not see it at this point. I have to wonder how much of it is just not being able to see it, how much of it is not wanting to see it. And it's that not wanting to see it, not wanting to face reality that's putting all of us in danger, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Patrick Christie's reporting again.
Come along. So, 35,000 illegal migrants have crossed the English Channel under Sir Keir Starmer's government. And the breaking news tonight is that 1,000 people, 1,000, crossed today alone. But I actually have some more breaking news for you. I can exclusively reveal shocking unseen footage of human traffickers operating on social media. One of them posted this video yesterday, which appears to suggest that he was in the Afghan Special Forces.
So for those who are listening, not watching, guy's wearing an Afghan flag, and I'm going to pause it a moment. He is dressed head to toe in body armor, like tactical gear. He has an insignia on his chest that is the Afghan flag, multiple patches, right, on his shoulder, magazine pouches, the lot, camo gear, a mount on his helmet for what appears to be night vision, what appears to be goggles, and a covering on his face that's in the shape or has a design of a skull on it. Quite clearly, what you'd think is a militant, at the very least, associated with the Afghanis based on the flags and the insignia. This is terrifying. This is absolutely terrifying.
Now, what you're looking at on your screens right now are pictures that they posted with guns and wads of cash. Can we keep that on the screen for a second? Because the uniform that that man was wearing in that video is actually the same uniform that was posted in news articles about UK Special Forces training Afghan Special Forces. So can you imagine, seriously, if it turns out that this guy is a UK-trained member of the Afghan Special Forces who is now a human trafficker? There are also worrying pictures as well.
Diversity is our strength, ladies and gentlemen. Diversity is our greatest strength. There's another one here of the guy, one of the guys doing a gesture of some kind. Bear with me 2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Doing a gesture of some kind that I've got. Patrick Christie actually describes it, but in this gesture, something to do with the Islamist finger point or something like that. That's to do with terror groups and stuff like that. It should be nowhere near, but this is what you get when you don't have borders, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you get from Open Border Society, right? Open Borders Foundation and all the rest of it. Pardon me. If you don't want more of it, ladies and gentlemen, you know exactly who to be in opposition to. Welcome to the team. Welcome to the team. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We might have Afghani special forces, helping out with this. They might have weapons ready to come over to the UK, right? Might already be doing heinous crimes to kids and all the rest of it and costing the taxpayer hundreds of millions every day, month, year, whatever. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. We only had 35,000 or so come over since the start of Keir Starmer's administration, since the start of Keir Starmer's government. They sent 19 home. Rest assured, they've got it under control. And if you don't want this, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want more of this, right? Because you're seeing it all across the UK now and all across the Western world. If you don't want more of this, ladies and gentlemen, you know exactly who to be in opposition to you. You'd be forgiven, ladies and gentlemen, watching this video for thinking this is somewhere in Asia, somewhere in the Middle East or wherever, right? You'd be forgiven for thinking that. You'd be forgiven for thinking that. This is King's College, London. This is King's fucking College in London, where you have a bunch of people, many of whom seem to be of foreign origin, led by, again, a hyper empathetic to the rest of the world, other than the once great nation that she is residing in, liberal female at the head of it, saying, long live the intifada revolution. Ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, do you honestly want this on your streets? I think you will agree with me when we say the answer is no. That's enough of that. I'm more than happy. I think one thing we could do is give these people, I'm happy to use the government to fund it, but again, it's not necessarily my money, so I can't necessarily be the judge of that. But I think most people would be happy if these people were to be given a one-way ticket, renouncing their citizenship and all the rest of it, renouncing their passport, renouncing any claim to this land or whatever, to be sent to Gaza, and they would actually be, accepted into the society as a one-way ticket, right? How many of them do you think would accept it? I'd be happy to send them. I'd be happy to send them, right? How many do you think would be happy to accept that deal? None of them. It's a bit like Patrick Bet David when he was on Surrounded, or the Jubilee program, whatever it was, a little while ago. And the communists that were on there, he offered to send one of them a one-way ticket, renounce your American citizenship, and I'll give you a certain amount of spending money even to whatever communist country you choose, and I'll pay for it today. Funnily enough, none of them took him up on the offer. Funny how that works, isn't it? Funny how this stuff happens in, the greatest countries in the world, or at least what once was one of the greatest countries in the world. And some of the greatest people ever to have graced this world, for all of the things that people across the world say about them. If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.